Okay. Two announcements, not for this class, but just in general. There is Professor McCooey sent out an invitation for people to join the UPE. That's if you have a high enough GPA in computer science or IT. So if you're interested in that, then get back to her. There's like a ceremony, which you don't absolutely have to go to, but it's nice. There's a cord you wear at graduation. It's something you can put on your resume. So it's easy for you to just say yes, and then you can do with it as you will. Wear the cord or don't, go to the ceremony or don't, put it on your resume or don't. So, okay, what else? Second announcement also from Professor McCooey. She's found an opportunity for like micro internships. So sort of online, get some work, some small project from a company, get paid, get some experience. So again, if your resume is a little unfilled, come up with some things to fill it with. So again, I think that's something she sent out. I think I might have a link. So if you ask me, I can probably sort of forward you the link. All right. We are getting to the end of the Flask material, or my Canvas. And so we're soon ready for test 2. Not this week, obviously. I'm not even done the material yet. Time for you, then next week is break. Time for you to finish these labs from this week and ask questions. So not the first week back, but maybe the second week back is a time perhaps for test 2. So I should look at a calendar. So 14 to 17, that's break, so it won't be then. Then the labs that I'm giving this week will be due 22, 24, so maybe like 29, 31. That may be the time for test 2 on the Flask material. And you should let me know if you have other major exams on those dates. So far, I don't think I know of anything from anybody, but let me know. And so I don't put it on the date you have another major exam. If it's just a big test in your religion course or something like that, there's not much I can do. Maybe I'll deal with you individually, but if it's a major exam that a lot of people are going to have, I try to avoid it. Okay, now what? So we are on the Flask, started with lab 8. We are currently on 14. We'll probably have 15, and that will still be Flask. And then that'll be the end of the material. So we'll be ending the material just before spring break for the Flask test. If you haven't started doing the Flask, there's some setup in your environment that is, if it goes smoothly, it's easy, it's 5 minutes. It doesn't always go smoothly. Don't try to set it up on a little jump drive. That doesn't really work. And then the usual that we had this before, even more so this time, you people who don't want to be in the same room with me can't just show up on the test and take any seat you want to. You get the seats that are left over. The people who come to class, they get their normal seat because they have an environment set up in it. All right. Anything else? No. So we're going to talk today about sessions and cookies. And then probably on Thursday, just sort of more of the same. So first I'm going to run an app that has no sessions or cookies, and then I will just do a simple add a session and a cookie and show you, and this is to remember something. A session variable is to remember a result, some value, and the cookie is the same, but will show the session sort of keeps up a little bit better with you within, like if you log onto the browser and you're doing stuff and you need to remember it while you're in the session, then the session variable is better, keeps more up with you. The cookie lags behind a little bit, but that's because the job of a cookie is for the next time. Okay, and then they have a cookie that dies when the session dies, and I don't know what the purpose of that really is, because you might as well just use a session, but it does exist, and so I will show it to you. So there'll be a cookie that dies, a cookie that lives, and there'll be a session. The session will live for the session, but then die, because that's its purpose. Okay, so Nobel Prize, here we go. So far, the people who've been sending me things have been good. And so far, I'm about probably about a week behind in grading right now. But so far, the things that people have sent me in Flask have been the right things. Nobody sent me the script area, which is good. So just a reminder to those of you who haven't sent me anything yet. Okay, so I'm going to be in Flask 2, VENV. I'm pasting. And I'm going to be app Nobel is my routes, form Nobel is my forms. There's some things in templates and static, maybe a style or something. Okay, code. And close. I'm going to go to the folder. I'm going to 341. I'm going to Flask 2 is where I'm working in this class, VENV. Okay. And close, close, close. And so I have app and forms, not FG. Not flyers, not FG. App Nobel, form Nobel, that's what I want. And then in templates, Nobel form handler, and that's probably what I want to look at. And then let it's app Nobel, and so I'll show it to you, then we'll talk about it. I've watched people, there are people who open up their Flask in a different way than me. And if it's working for you, that's great. If you come to me and say it's not working for this project, I'm going to make you do it my way. So just letting you know that's the way I am. I do it my way. Okay, so here is this form. It's got 2 drop-down selects. So that's, oh, sorry. I don't care about the people who don't want to be in the room with me. Actually, that's the opposite of true. I like you guys better. I'm still not ready to go. Windows P, Windows P, come on. There we go. All right. So you should have yelled that out like 5 minutes ago, but thank you. Okay. So I have app forms of the HTML and two HTMLs, the form and the handler. It's got two drop-down lists. So I'm going to the Nobel Prize API. APIs, I like APIs. They're important in today's world, but lots of them require you to register. And so one, I used to be a scientist, and two, this API doesn't require you to register, and it usually doesn't block based on the number of submissions. So it's an easy API to deal with, so I keep using it. I have a drop-down list of categories: peace, literature, economics, chemistry, physics. And then I have a drop-down list of years. I was just lazy and did a handful of years: 2005, chemistry, who won the Nobel Prize. Enter. And then I'm over here on the handler, and it is Yves Chauvin, Robert Grubbs, and Richard Schrock. Okay, so they shared the prize. All right, and this is data from that API. Okay, and then I can go back, and the form is remembering that I chose chemistry in 2005. But if I like update the site, it doesn't remember. It goes back to physics in 2000, just the first choices in the list. And okay, so that is, let's show you that. This is going to, the first one is going to be without session, without cookies. Then we'll show you what session and cookies do. Okay, so the Nobel form. There are forms Nobel. This is the Python. I had a submit field. That's the button that you press at the bottom. I had a select field. That's the drop-down lists. Let me take that out and squeeze this in and you guys over. Okay. So here's a select field for the category, and it's physics, chemistry, economics, literature, and peace. And we know that the choices are a list of tuples. And in the tuple, each tuple, there are two things. And the one thing is what the user sees, and the other thing is what goes behind the scene, the value of the select, or the value of the option of the select. And in this case, they're the same thing. That's not always the case. And the same thing also down here for the year. And I just like hard-coded years. So very unsophisticated of me. Just here's some years, and here's the submit button. The app is just the routes. We have our little code that we need, or it doesn't work. The default route, I'm redirecting. I always copy this over and over again, and I misspell. This is where I have to spell redirect correctly, and I do, but here I just misspell it. But I'm redirecting the default route to the form. I have Flask, I have render template, so I can have HTML files. I have URL4, I use that with the, I have a link to the style. I think that's where I use that. I have a redirect, which I just showed you, and the request is the information I get from the form. Okay, so if they go open to the default route, it sends them to the form, and then here's the form, and the form and the handler have the same route. And I just decide which one based on whether I'm there for the first time or whether I'm responding to the user submitting. So if the user hits the submit button, then it is submitted. and I go to I collected the information that the user sent me. And then I'm going to a URL. So here I am concatenating together the category and the year. And I print out the URL just to see if I have it behind the scenes. Then I'm making a URL. I'm going out to the website and getting the code. And then I am parsing that code as JSON. It's a standard API, and standard APIs in this day and age, mostly, not all, some of them give you XML, but this one, like most these days, gives you JSON. And then so I get, this is if the user has clicked the submit button, then the form is submitted. I gather the information, and I'm calling it results. Result had two things, a category and a year. I concatenate together my API. I go to that API, get the data, I parse it as JSON. And now that's called Nobel Info. And I'm sending Nobel Info over, and I called it also Nobel Info. And that's going to go over to the handler. If I'm not responding to the user submitting the button, then I go to the original Nobel form. Okay, the Nobel form, which is in the templates. Here I have a place for them to tell me the category. I have a place for them to tell me the year. And I have the submit button. And I just copied this structure. And so there was no real label for the submit button because it's just a button that says submit, but I was just copying and pasting like mad. So that's why I have it. Because it just to make sure it has to follow the same pattern for everything. So that is the form. We saw that form. I think let me stop it and start it again. So that was this form. There was a label and then the drop down, the label and then the drop down and then the button. Oh, that's why I think I made the empty label for my, for the purposes of my style, wanted a label to make things line up. So maybe that's why I made this empty label to get the button under the two drop downs. Okay, then go over to the form handler. I'm showing the category, I'm showing the year, I'm showing the winner data. And it was called Nobel Prize, or sorry, Nobel_info, that we should look at. Where am I at? I'm going to let me run this physics 2000. And that I put down here, the URL. So let me remind you what the API looks like. Control click, why not? So here's the API. It's a dictionary with a property called prizes, which is an array, or sorry, a list. Use my Python language. And then the winners are a property of the prize called laureates. And then there are a number of laureates. They're the winners. Okay. So here's Nobel_info. There was a property called prizes. There can be a number of prizes. The way that I am querying this API, there's one prize, the 0th prize, but it's possible for it to give you more than one prize. If you don't give a category, it will give you all the categories for that year or something like that. Or if you don't give if you give a category and no years, it's going to give you all the years. But I asked for a category and a year, so there's only one prize for me. But in general, the system's set up to give me a list. Then there's a property laureates, and then more than one person can win the prize. So that is also a list. And so I'm looping over the winners in the list. So for this part, I've said I need to know the structure of the JSON. I have to know that there's a prizes property, that it's a list with one thing in it. So I'm just using the index 0, and that each of the prizes has a property laureates, and then that is a list, so I can loop over. So for this part, for this outer part here, I'm using the knowledge I have of the API. For this inner part, I am not using my knowledge of the API. I'm just letting it spew out. So I'm saying the winner, which is some object, here are the items in the winner, and they are key value pairs, and then just show me the key and the value. So I could say, I know there's a first name and I know there's a surname, and I could put out the first name and surname. Instead, I just said, show me what you got. And you can see that here. There was an ID, there was a first name, there was a surname, there was a motivation, there was a share. Okay. All right, so I showed you the Python form. I showed you the routes. I showed you the form HTML, and I showed you the form handler HTML. So I've shown you everything but the style. Okay. Now, I want to show you the version with a cookie and a session. So that's what we're adding now. Okay, so I'm going to add a session and I'm going to add a cookie. Otherwise, it's going to be the same. And I'm not going to do much with the session or the cookie, except at the bottom of the page say, hey, this is what you chose. So I'm going to sort of do some remembering, but not really do much with what is remembered. And hopefully I'll do maybe a little bit better on Thursday about using this information, but now I'm just sort of displaying this information. So let me see, in downloads, I just downloaded it, the session in the cookie version. Copy that, 341 Flask to virtual environment, paste. Okay. And let me close them to make sure, and then open them again. Make sure I have the new ones. Form Nobel, app Nobel, Nobel form handler. Okay. So here's the forms Nobel, and the select field I left the same. This time I decided to take the range of numbers between 2000 and 2021 and make a list of tuples. So I pulled out our old tuple maker and used it here to make the choices. So before, last time I had the years hard coded. Now I am sort of generating a list of the years using the tuple maker. So we used a version of the tuple maker when we were reading a JSON file. Now this is just take a range of numbers and make a list of choices out of that. And again, choices are a list of tuples. Okay, so that was a slight modification in the forms, but not much. There's no real session or cookie here. Here's the routes. I added session here. So the routes has some session information. Okay. And here's what I am. So I have the default route being redirected to the form. That much is the same. Here's the form. I'm asking if it's submitted, then getting the result information, putting together the URL, getting the information, parsing it as JSON. That's all the same. Here's the session part. I had to add to my imports that I'm working with session. And then here I am saying that there's a session for category, and it's going to be equal to the results category. And I just did category and I didn't do year because I'm lazy and no other reason. Okay, so I am remembering whatever the user put in as the session, and that's part of results, because result comes from the form. Request is the form. I'm getting whatever the user chose for the category. And when I say the session, I'm remembering. So session is a set of name value pairs. And so I gave it the same name, category. I did not have to. I could call it cat or, cat egg or something. I didn't have to call it category. I just happened to. So, but result is name value pairs and session is name value pairs. Result had category and year and maybe something for submit, whether or not it was submitted. All I'm doing for session here is doing a category. So I'm establishing a key within my session. I'm setting saying I'm going to have a key called category, a key or a name, and then I'm giving it the same value as what the user chose for the category. Okay, let me get rid of this, make a little more room. Okay, I am creating a response. So this is a little bit different than just what we had before, because I'm going to send, I'm going to tie into my response the cookies and send it over. So this part changes. The how I get over to the category is changing. Okay. What do we have? I'm making a response that goes over to this HTML. I give it a title, I give it a header, I send it over the result, I send it the Nobel info. So what did the user choose in terms of categories? What did I get out of those categories? And so on. So that is, I am preparing, I don't immediately jump over to the other page. I prepare the page because I'm going to prepare as part of the page this cookie that I'm going to send it. So this is me doing the normal stuff. What's the normal stuff? Point to the HTML I'm going to use, give it a title, give it a header, send over the data the user chose, send over any JSON data I got. That's the normal stuff you've seen before. Now I'm taking my response and also giving it 2 cookies. I'm calling it category and category 2. So the session I established up here, and I established a session called category and gave it the name of result. Here I'm establishing a cookie, then I'm calling category, and it has that same value. So I'm going to send over a session that remembers the category. I'm going to send over a cookie that remembers the category. I'm going to send over a second cookie that remembers the category. So here's my first cookie. I'm making my response. I'm setting a cookie. That's a method of the response. I'm giving it a key of category and giving it a value of whatever the user chose for the category. And then I'm giving it another cookie. This one, the key is category _2. The value is category. And then I have a third argument this time. And that third argument is how long is the cookie going to last? So this cookie dies with the session. If I don't specify a time, the cookie dies with the session. And the session dies with the session. This cookie will live. How long will it live? This is in seconds. So 60 seconds is a minute. 60 minutes is an hour. 24 hours is a day. And this 2 should probably be up here in the front. And then it's 2 days. So this result, this cookie is going to hang around for 2 days. Okay, and then I return the response, which gives me my handle. If I'm not going to the new page, then I go to form Nobel and I send it the usual information. Okay, so that's what I have in the routes. So the route has changed because I'm establishing the session and I'm establishing the cookie. And the route is usually just the information of where I'm located, but it's also like this go between. So I'm going between the form and the form handler, and that's when I have some information from the user that I want to remember. And it's also where I'm in Python, where I'm on the back end, so I can do things like sessions and cookies. Okay. So now let's look at the form. Here's the form. I have a place for the category. I have a place for the year. I have a place for the submit button. And then I say, here is me on the original form asking in Jinja, is there anything, is there anything that is session category? And my question is it defined? So if this page sees that there's a session that's defined, it's going to tell me what the value is. Oh, there is a session category, what's its value? If not, it's going to say I lost the session. The session lasts as long as the browser's up. If the browser goes down, then we forget. Then I go to a section about cookies. The question is slightly different if there are cookies. If I go to request cookies get category, this is a different way to ask. Then I say, here's the cookie. And otherwise I say the cookie was lost. And here's the second cookie. And I say, here's the value I have, or I say it was lost. And on the handler, I loop over the winners like I did before. And then I have this session and cookie stuff all over again. So I have this part is the same on the form and on the handler. And I'm just asking, if you have a session, let me know what the value is. If you have a cookie of the first type, let me know what the value is. If you have a cookie of the second type, let me know what the value is. And it's all I did was category. I could have also done year. All right. So let's see this in action. All right. So here is, I've just started. I just said, serve me up that page. I have my drop down for physics and for categories for years and enter. At this stage, I have no session. The session established by the route when I'm responding. And I haven't responded yet, so there's no session yet. I don't have a cookie. That was also established in this. When I enter something, then I will establish a cookie. So there's no cookie. There is a cookie for peace. Why is there a cookie for peace? Because I was playing around earlier today in this same VENV with this program, and it remembers that there was a cookie that the last thing I chose there was peace. Okay. If I set this up in one of my other VENVs and run it, this cookie wouldn't be there. So this cookie is there because I was playing around this morning. If I played around last week, it would be gone because it's a 2-day cookie. Okay, so that was peace. Let me choose chemistry, 2010, and go over there. So hit enter. Okay, so here is chemistry 2010. Here are the winners, Heck and other people. All right. Now I'm on the handler. The session knows that the category is chemistry. The session knows that the category was chemistry because the session was established at the route, at the APP, when we were establishing the routes, when we were moving from the form to the handler, that's when we established the session. We also established the cookie, but the cookie lags behind. The cookie doesn't have the purpose of keeping up for the current session. That's not the job of a cookie. The job of a cookie is to remember from sort of session to session. So the cookie, the short-lived cookie, it doesn't know that it's been established yet. When we go back to the form, it will know, but it doesn't know at this stage. And the cookie that has been established is still at peace. Okay, so the session exists while the browser is up. The cookie, the second cookie, this first cookie also only lasts while the browser is up. And I don't really have any use for this cookie. But this other cookie, while it lags behind, will live to tell us what we did in the past. Let me open. I want to keep my session going, so I'm going to keep my browser going. I'm going to open up another tab. And here is now a new tab. And now it knows that the session is chemistry, and the category cookie is chemistry, and the category 2 is chemistry. So it remembers because it remembers the session, because it remembers as long as the browser's open. This it also remembers as long as the browser's open. This one lags behind, but we've sort of, we've done like a reload. I reloaded the form, and that gave it time to catch up. And this one is caught up and has the new value. Okay. I'm going to, what am I going to do? Choose something different. Choose literature. Choose 2016. And so that's when Bob Dylan won the Nobel Prize for Literature. And the session knows that we're on the literature. The cookies, as cookies do, are lagging behind. They think we're still choosing chemistry. If I refresh the page, then the cookies catch up. So if I refresh, that gives a chance for the cookies to catch up. But the session sort of always caught up. The cookies lag behind, but you can get them to catch up by refreshing the page. Now I'm going to close the browser. And but let me see if I can get back to the control click. Let's see if I can open it again. Here it is. I've opened it back up. The session is lost because the browser closed and sessions only last as long as the browser's open. The category cookie, the one with no time, that was lost because it only lives as long as the session. Category 2 has a lifetime of 2 days. 2 days haven't gone by, it only seems like it. And so the session that is remembered, and that says that we chose literature before, which is what we did. And it would remember that for 2 days, and then it would be forgotten, and then we'd have to remember something new the next time around. So that's session and cookies. Are there any questions? Okay, so what are you going to do? Well, one of my other favorite APIs, and you're going to do sessions and cookies for it. Okay, all right. So here's the API for the XKCD cartoon comic strip. If you go with just to this place, it will tell you the latest comic. And from the latest comic, you can figure out how many of them there are. And then if you put in a specific number within that range, you'll see the information for that comic. So let me show you that. So here is and this is usually another good API that doesn't have. So the current comic is from month 3 and the year 2022. So it's sometime from this month, and something about not complaining. And then here's the image for it. The image URL and something. Okay. So then if I put in a number, I can find out the number of this was 2590. So any number less than 2590, there ought to be an entry for. And how did that look? That is after com and before info, put a number. So after com and before info, if I put some number 1, 2, 3, 4 within the range, I should get the API for whatever comic that is. So you'll just basically repeat what I did, but for the comic. And did I ask you to display the picture? So I might have made you display the picture. Well, let's see. So on the form handler, display the comic's number, month, year, and image. So I think that's open for interpretation. Are you going to give me the URL, or are you going to actually use an image tag and show me the URL? That's better practice, so I would do that if I were you. And then create a cookie. I want mine lasted for 2 days, but I want yours to last for 2 weeks. And I want it to tell me, what was the last comic you looked at? So the last, so if I close it and open it back up, it will say the last comic you looked at was this. And that's a cookie. Okay. And you can give me the session stuff as well if you want. But what I'm explicitly asking for here is the cookie. Any questions? No questions. Okay, let me stop recording.